Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Bill O'Hara. I work for Haywood Securities, which is a full-service brokerage firm in Canada with head office in Vancouver. We've been around since 1981. We are employee-owned, and we are specialists in the mining space and oil and gas, so basically resources, but we have a division which we call special situations, where we're able to pivot into unique opportunities and new sectors that emerge as they do constantly, and one of them being psychedelics. So we built a small little business in this little space here, where it's emerging as we speak. I've been in the company for 18 years in the sales position, but also some sorts of origination in terms of discussing companies' strategies about going public, raising money, as well as communicating with the clients themselves, both retail and institutional. We have $7 billion under management in our retail group. We have full service institutionally with research, banking, sales, and trading. Thank you.
So my name's Phillip Shum. I'm the Director of Listings Development for the CSE. I'm based here in Toronto, Canada. We have a team of I think four individuals which can meet with new potential companies that want to get listed on their exchange. My role is essentially to work with new potential companies or anyone that's interested in getting listed with our exchange, and then through that, I'll walk them through the listing requirements, as well as work with them to make sure they find the proper service provider. Individuals such as Haywood Securities, as well as other brokers, lawyers, bankers, auditors, et cetera, et cetera. To give you a little bit of background about the CSE, we have approximately just under 600 companies that are listed on our exchange. In the past, we have gained quite a bit of notoriety in that we have attracted quite a bit of cannabis companies. We have approximately 190 or 195 or so. But having said that, at this point now, with a lot of the retail interest and the investment interest that's gone into psychedelics, we are also transitioning into getting quite a bit of these psychedelic companies listed at this point. Thank you.
So I think while Richard's just doing a refresh to get the audio and video working, have you guys worked together on projects before?
I have worked with the CSE directly through the last conference they put on. I've known Anna and Phil and Barrington for a long time. It's a very small community in the capital market space in Toronto. So directly or indirectly, we've been in contact with each other over the years, for sure.
Yeah, and to add to Bill's comment, we have seen various listings coming out of Haywood Securities, out of either Vancouver, Toronto, and we have worked quite closely with that firm at this point.
With your approach to psychedelics, Phillip, as a listing, service, and with the federal illegality as it stands right now, what are some of the regulations that you kind of have to watch out for to make sure that all these public vehicles are being listed safely and legally?
Well, you mentioned this whole thing about federal illegality. Certainly, one of the challenges that we have as an exchange, or actually let me rephrase that, the opportunities we have as an exchange are to be able to work with companies that are looking for access to public venture capital. There is a very robust listings review team that is behind the scenes. It's actually the largest part of our exchange. We've got a series of individuals that will go ahead and look at financials, do a good amount of regulatory review. There's a good amount of what we call PIFs, which are personal information forms, as well as a good amount of background checks that need to occur. But having said that, we are a regulated stock exchange. In order for you to be able to get listed, there is a review process.
Wonderful. So we're just putting up, I think everyone should be able to see it here. This is a disclaimer from Bill just about Haywood Securities. And then beyond that, maybe Bill, if you want to speak to that as well, the listing protocols, or even prior to listing, how you're structuring those organizations.
We rely a lot on the exchanges to dictate what companies and activities are going to be allowed to list. To be honest, that is not my particular specialty in terms of where they list and how, and the dynamics behind what is necessary to be listed on a particular exchange. I just know that with the CSE, we've been very proactive, and they've been proactive, so that we would approach them probably first to talk to them regarding the likelihood of a particular issue or listing on their exchange, and what the appropriate protocols would be going forward with that.
And if we're talking about sort of longevity in listing these as public vehicles, so the CSE is obviously very friendly to emerging markets first. How do you see the progression coming along with larger exchanges and that kind of regulatory approval process?
So from a certainly the CSE, as you mentioned, is what we deem to be very friendly. We are certainly eager to reach out to respective clients and work with them to be able to help them to help fill their financing bucket, for lack of a term. So we will refer a good amount of deals to a lot of individuals that we know of. Ultimately, what's hoping to happen, or what we hope to happen, is clearly clients will grow with us and have an opportunity to continue to trade with our exchange. We believe that, and you could just look at the numbers in that the CSE is actually the fastest growing stock exchange in Canada if you were to strip out things such as like the ETFs or SPACs or mutual funds on other exchanges. So certainly we believe that companies will not only come to us initially, and we believe that with our client-friendly model, people will stay with us.
And so how far ahead of that curve do you think you are in terms of years against other listing vehicles?
Well, in terms of percentage, it's tough to say, but certainly I would think that if you just look at the psychedelic space in itself, I think we've got somewhere in the region of approximately 10 companies in that space. And we've got various companies in queue that have applied. We have obviously already talked to other companies which have not applied just yet, but we know are also pending. So in terms of percentage-wise, I can't give you a percentage, but I know that I do believe that at least at this point, people are very amenable to listing on the CSE. One of the reasons we, of course, have people list on us is we have a lower cost model. And then from a regulatory standpoint, we provide the same level of disclosure requirements for every other exchange that's out there. And then we are very reasonably tight with the streets, so that we have good visibility into a lot of deals which are being formed.
So in terms of deal flow, maybe Bill, you could speak to that, because you probably see things earlier on in the stages when you're raising and helping companies get their go public strategy formed. Have you seen a really marked increase in activity on the private side getting ready to go public in the past 6 months to a year? Or what's your sort of take on that pulse there?
Yeah, yes, Patrick, for sure. There's been a huge increase in the number of companies in that regard. I can say that, about a year ago, December, when I first started looking at the space, there was a couple companies, Thai and Compass, really, that were the most notable. And then the space was largely vacant, but the decision or the opportunity was there. The question was, how do you derive a business that makes sense for capital markets and that can show a viable business model? And there's been a lot of work in that regard since that time. And I can tell you, since June then of last year, there was now the likelihood of probably 10 to 15 companies, and now there's got to be 100 companies that are out there looking for capital. And again, as Phil said, some of them are in the queue, some of them are just talking to find out what exchange, and all of them are private except for the ones that are public, which are a handful as we spoke. So yes, the activities is I don't want to use a bad term here, but it's mushroomed basically, and to about 100 plus that I know of, and it's been quite a rapid increase.
That's really encouraging to hear, you know, especially just within the span of a year, hearing, you know, figures of 10x. It's clearly very exciting. And so I think we also have Richard on now. Richard, if you want to test your mic, we had him dial in.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
And you can go ahead and take the baton. It's all yours, Richard.
Thank you very much. Feel a bit of a fool when I'm turning up late to my own party. Good afternoon, good evening, Philip and Bill.
Hello.
Hello, Richard. How are you, mate?
So I got to see your smiling faces, but I couldn't get into the room, so I'm dialing in from my telephone. Now we obviously touched on the the accessibility of the public markets. I really wanted to sort of pose this question for you, Bill. What sort of needs to change in a company? What if you're sat down with a group of hungry entrepreneurs? They've got their ambition that they want to go and they want to be a public company. What tends to be missing from those companies as they sort of get ready to go on that trajectory and to go public?
It depends, Richard. Certainly, the more capital markets savvy companies do understand that there's a process that has to be followed in order to abide by the rules and regulations of going public and raising money. Some of them are less experienced, and therefore it becomes more of a hold your hand process of raising money. But I would say a lot of times when you start from the earliest stages, the company is few in number, and they require many hats to be worn by the key executives. And when they evolve, and as they evolve, they need to fill those roles with full-time people that are dedicated to making sure that they are attuned to the requirements of a public company, because they're certainly quite different. And a lot of times the companies are not quite aware of how much of a regulatory burden it is, if you will, to be public. And there's a lot of filings, a lot of documentation that has to be made known to the public that these companies must file in order to abide by the rules of the exchanges, which when they're private, they don't really understand all that yet, because it's just friends and family raising money. Records are, I would say, loose, if you will, in terms of keeping track of things sometimes, and it just has to be tightened up quite a bit to the exchanges requirements, and then a lot of times they're not aware of that.
So we're talking about making sure you have a very strong chief financial officer, maybe a chief investment officer, somebody who's going to come in and work, as a dedicated investment relations role.
That will eventually become the role, the sort of demarcated roles, yes. But in the early stage, I think a good CEO can play the part of the IR representative as well, because a lot of times it's just the CEO that's selling their story to the people. But once the business has raised the money, that then necessitates the CEO's time to be spent, executing on the business plans. Then they need the people then to have to be a dedicated IR professional, so they can handle the public and the demands of the public, and the marketing and the requests from the exchanges and the filings, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so it will become that, but not right away, not even necessarily when they start to go public, but certainly after they get to a certain level of business, if you will, that they need to have individual.
Yeah, that actually leads very well to my next question, actually, which was really when should a company go public, and why should a company go public? Is what should be the real sort of motivating factors behind that?